You're watching Forget Being Cool.
If someone talked to you the way you do to you, I'd put their teeth through. Love yourself.
Welcome to Listening In, the place where music checks in.
Alright, let's just get into this. Hi, Josh.
Hi, Dave.
You picked an album this week, as you always do for us. It's Listening In, where music checks in. I'm Dave Moore, that's Josh Weinberg. You guys already know that. But I am so happy after last week that you picked an album that was enjoyable. I've got my criticisms. I've got my things to say. But overall, quite an enjoyable experience.
Good. I'm certainly glad that I can be of some service to you. And to the general audience, maybe.
Maybe. Let's be honest. They probably don't like any of the music you picked so far.
I don't know. I wouldn't say they dislike it all.
Just last week. Anyway, Josh, tell me about this album. Tell me about it.
All right. So if you're seeing the title of this, then you likely have seen the praise for this thing stack up over the last most of this year. Because after doing a lot of stuff in the past, I figured we'll finally do a 2018 album. And what an album to start on. The sophomore album from UK punk, although the frontman insists they're not a punk band, Idols. Joy as an act of resistance. Oh man, do we have a lot to get into in such a short amount of time.
Super political. I don't really want to get into the politics of this.
In pockets. That's the thing with this band. But their debut album, Brutalism, and this, there is a focus on, of course, Brexit and a lot of mostly things relating to British culture and lifestyle. So it's definitely a great learning experience in that regard. I believe the main tracks that sort of talk about that, there's some references to, the whole chav thing, being a British street youth in I'm Scum. And there's one track in particular. Is it Television? No, it's not Television. Which one?
Television has got a... If anything, Television is probably my favorite track on the album, which is talking about not being influenced by television or, the image that magazines and things have created, to just enjoy you the way you are and be happy about who you are, not, this perfect image of being beautiful and, perfect face and getting plastic surgery and all the nonsense that we're doing. Like, that is what that song is about. It's about treating yourself the correct way and talking to yourself in a positive light.
Yeah, one thing about this album, especially when it comes to the songwriting, is there are little references to things, like in one of my favorite tracks, Love Song, one of the first lines in the first verse is, I carried a watermelon, which is a reference to a scene from Dirty Dancing. And I'm like, how did they fit that in there? And then, of course, there's from Television. If someone talked to you the way you do to you, I'd put their teeth through. Love yourself.
Yeah.
Like, it just comes out of nowhere, but the delivery is so earnest, and especially with the instrumentation, it's like there are points where it's fast and the lyrics fit. There are points where it kind of slows down a little bit, and you can really appreciate what's being said.
You say that like it does this brilliant thing where the delivery is sometimes spot on, but maybe my biggest complaint, Josh, with this entire album is his one-noteness of most of the time this guy is singing.
I could certainly see that, but I mean, for me, I see a bit of an Ian Curtis influence in there. There is some Joy Division in here. There's obviously
every time he breaks from his standard mode of, I can't even imitate it, but his standard one-noted kind of singing, every time he breaks away from that, which is few and far in between, it's impressive and enjoyable. And I wonder if, while listening to this, I started to wonder, like, are those moments done so that you appreciate them more when they happen? Or is it a lack of, like, understanding that you have this kind of this drawl, this similar sounding thing? Because none of the songs sound the same on the instrumentation. Like, the instrumentation is always different and almost calls back to other tracks on the album, but it never feels samey, versus him across the album most of the time sounds very samey.
No, for sure, and I think for some that may be expecting change. And I did find the other the in terms of if you're from the UK and you're definitely and you've probably heard of this album already and all the buzz it's been getting. Two tracks in particular. I mentioned one of them. The other one was, I believe it was Great. That's the one that really hones in on the Brexit stuff.
Yeah. GREAT.
Well, there's one. I found the other one. I was trying to remember what the first one was because there's one about Islam or something.
Immigrants.
Yeah, Islam didn't eat your hamster. Change isn't a crime.
Yeah, the one about immigrants, which is interesting to...
I love Danny Nadelko because it is basically just a song about how awesome his friend is. And especially the bridge, it's like the D, the A, the N, the N, the Y. And it spells out Danny Nadelko community, so fuck you.
Yeah. No, it's great. Television is probably still my favorite track. By far. I think it stands out as if you're going to listen to one track on this album. Another thing I did, Josh, we were talking about this a little bit before the show started, how they have 5 singles that they released as part of this album, meaning they came out as singles. One, I don't think that was necessary. 2, they didn't all come with music videos, and the music videos that I found, honestly, God, this is maybe the strongest criticism I have. I'm not even sure they're real music videos. Like, that's how poorly done they are. And I'm pretty sure they were done by them, but they're not good. They're very bad. They are very unprofessional. They look like they got the lowest budget music video team I've ever seen. And this is coming from a guy who's seen plenty of their own independent YouTube creator music videos come out over the years.
So let me ask you something then. Exactly how much does like a music video that sort of tangentially has something to do with the music tie into the album? Because while I respect that opinion, at the same time, if the songs themselves are really good.
No, I would agree. I would completely agree.
Maybe a bad video does kind of. I experienced that with the Daz Mortal album from a few episodes ago. The songs were really good, but when I saw some of the videos, I felt that they didn't fit with how I saw them. But I'm just one person. I would say my favorite tracks are Samaritans, which another major theme of Joy as an Act of Resistance is toxic masculinity and how it's BS, and we have to stop acting that way and repressing our emotions. Like, the verses are basically just a satirical look at that, Man up, sit down, chin up, pipe down, that whole thing.
Yeah.
And one of the most potent lines of this album, the mask of masculinity is a mask that's wearing me.
A song that also stands out for me on here is Love Song.
Yes.
Which is maybe the most descriptive song of a toxic relationship I've ever heard in my life. You give me power. You're like a gun, like a knife, be my wife, is maybe the creepiest lyrics in anything I've ever heard. I bought this card. It says I love you.
That verse, I fucking love you. I really love you. Look at the card I bought. It says I love you.
Maybe the most...
That's the delivery.
It sounded like I don't even believe that he loves this person, which is which is the point. I guess I get it, but it's got a perfect delivery once again. When a story moment comes up in this album, like when he's trying to tell a story, the delivery is flawless. His standard vocalization, I don't know, is this a word? Made it up, probably. Doesn't ever surprise me and doesn't ever do a great job, in my opinion. And sometimes that makes me want to hear these songs done by other people, yet then you get to those moments where he shifts into this direction of trying to prove a point, and I'm blown away.
Speaking of perfect delivery, one of the tracks on here, Gram Rock, which is basically just sort of a concept. It's like, people meeting in a funeral, but they don't really care about the person there. But in the second verse, it's just you just hear 10 points to Gryffindor.
Yeah, and they repeat it, and oh God, it's like throwing in those weird references just blow me away. And the first time you hear these, they're great, and some of them I don't even want to spoil in case people haven't listened to it.
Yeah. The concept behind Gramrock is hilarious, and yet it works so well.
Okay.
And then they throw you a curveball near the end they cover a Solomon Burke song with Cry to Me, and it works well. It's like it's a soul song, but for their purposes, they make it work. And then, of course, on the closing track, Rottweiler, the very first line, "There's a snake in my boot."
Right. And like there's
Like, these guys, idols get me.
they get you. They throw them in here and they kind of make you interested in the story. Now I gotta ask you that question about interpreting that funeral song. I interpret it as like Wedding Crashers, or basically, but funeral crashers, and they were coming to funerals and being like, "Sorry, your grandma's dead. Lovely spread," and they would just eat all the food. Like, I figured that was what that was about. Like,
basically, it's about two coked up bankers at a funeral, according to frontman Joe Talbot. So
all right.
It's the same basic idea.
Yeah.
You know, they're just sort of really self-absorbed.
Writing
and,
a song about funeral crashing just feels wrong and shouldn't have been done by anybody, but it's there and it exists. So, whatever. There's
Never Fight a Man with a Perm. It's got some sort of and it's also that one.
Okay.
That one has a nod to these boots are made for walking. No, these boots are made for stomping, and that's just what they'll do.
Now, there's a lyric in that song, Josh, drives me absolutely nuts, and it's concrete to leather, and I'm not even sure.
Concrete and leather, yes.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about, and they yell it 1,000 times. Like, I'm assuming that it's like stomping a dude into the pavement who's also wearing leather, but I'm really not sure. And every time I heard it, for about the first 5 times I listened to this album, because I listened to these 12 times, it's basically my music for the week, I heard Concrete's 11. I'm like, what are they saying? And I had to look it up.
It's concrete and leather.
Yeah.
And yeah, your initial ideas of of that line are pretty much correct. You know, it's referring to, of course, stomping boots and curb stomping, possibly.
Curb stomping men with perms and wearing leather. I don't know. I don't wear leather. I'm not that cool. Can't pull it off.
Another neat movie reference, possibly, in the line, "I said I got a penchant for smokes and kicking douches in the mouth. Sadly for you, my last cigarette's gone out." That seems like, to me, a nice homage to the cult horror classic They Live, or horror/science fiction.
Yeah.
"I have come here to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum," except you switch the bubblegum and the kicking ass because that's how it was actually said in the movie. I haven't watched They Live in a while.
Anyway, Josh, I really enjoyed this. I think it's something everybody should give a listen to, especially if you like punk music. Holy jeez, what are you doing? PNG, hi. Hi. Yeah. Go listen.
Hands down, one of the best albums of the year for me. And basically, this is a band that took their initial success with an album that was incredibly visceral, brutal, and I wouldn't say bleak, but it was basically just, Britain's fucked. And this is them flipping it on its head and basically trying to make a more vulnerable and hopeful album in many ways, hopeful for themselves and for the future of their country and their community and the scene in general. So I feel like this is something where if you have not heard of Idols by now, get on the train because they're only going to be going up from here.
Josh, thanks for telling me something about this album. It was great. Go listen to it. Of course, all our links and everything is in the description. It's the best place to go, or over at forgetbeingcool.com on the listening in page. That's where you guys got to find stuff. It'll make it easier. You guys got to go to our playlist. You guys want to know what's coming up. It's in our playlist. Guys, that's a thing. Anyway, this has been Listening In. Thanks for checking in with us.
For more great discussions, hit that subscribe button or visit forgetbeingcool.com.